Ashley, welcome to the Retail Whore Podcast.
Hey, party people. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm super excited we're having this conversation. We met at UPP, now it feels like forever ago, a couple years ago. You were one of the speakers and you spoke about how you built your business. And now, I'll be honest, now I love watching you now and watching the business grow and, watching these. You have a Pink Flamingo Party Company and you do these insane balloon things, but now you're starting to kind of expand off of that. And it's so amazing to watch from afar.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, it's been an exciting last couple of years since I've seen you. A lot has happened, a lot has changed, and we're evolving, and it's a really exciting place to be in.
I like I said, I love watching it from afar. It's like so exciting. So I want you to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your background, and then we're going to jump into your space.
Yeah, thanks so much. So my name is Ashley Sodipo. I own Pink Flamingo Party Co, which is a gift, event rental, and balloon installation company. So we're most known for our over-the-top balloon art installations. We've been featured in Black Enterprise and Forbes. Our balloon art was featured on the Connecticut State Capitol during the George Floyd protests. We've just been all over. We help everyone from moms trying to create a Pinterest-worthy celebration to corporate companies to, brand installations and activations. We really do it all. So a little bit about Pink Flamingo. It started about 5.5 years ago in my apartment in Brooklyn. I wanted to help people celebrate with like a high quality luxury paper good. I was going on a birthday trip and I really wanted like some cute paper goods for my friends. And at that time, there weren't a lot of companies like there are now that were curating, the higher end paper products that really fit the young adult, like post kid, but, not your grandmother's cocktail napkin. And I spent hours on Etsy and I was like, there really should be a site that curates, all of the cutest party supplies, especially since, bachelorettes were getting so big at the time. People started going from like one night to like 4-day trips and girls trips were really big. So that's kind of how Pink Flamingo was born in the paper goods space.
So did you do retail or anything like that before this? Or is this something like, you created something for a need for it, which I love, but you now have a full-fledged retail space. Have you spent any time in retail?
I worked at Bonobos. Do you know Bonobos?
Yeah.
The men's clothing store.
Okay.
They're like a men's clothing store. You can go in and try and clothes, but you can't buy anything in the store. They ship it to you. I have not, that was my extent of like retail experience. And that wasn't even true. You can't even buy anything in the store. You can just look. It's like, what
a weird concept. I'm not even going to get into that, but I've never heard of that. Like you could try it on.
Yeah, you'll have to look it up. It's funny. But yeah, no, I hadn't really spent any time in retail. I love to shop. I love to go to small shops and small businesses. And I've always loved like kitschy stores or like tchotchke style stores or just stores that are super interesting. I did live in New York at the time, but no, my background isn't in retail. I spent the majority of my career in tech sales.
Oh my gosh. I love this. Like completely out of the blue. So when you started deciding that you wanted to create this concept, and at this point, are you thinking even if it's a retail space, or are you just thinking for e-com?
I'm just thinking it's e-commerce at the time. I was like, okay, I'll just like get a bunch of people to sign. Like, I didn't even know how it worked, right? I was like, I'll just email a bunch of people and they'll let me sell their stuff on my website, and I'll just have a website and just sell the stuff.
I love it. And how did that go?
Not very well, honestly. Because it's so funny. People don't want to sell you. I mean, now it's a little bit different. There's things like Fair and, that didn't, I don't know if that even existed, 5+ years ago. Nobody wanted to sell me or have me sell their stuff because I had no website and like no stuff, but I couldn't, it was like the chicken and the egg. Like they were like, well, who else like sells? What else do you sell? What other brands do you sell? And I was like, well, none. You'd be the first. No one wants to be the first.
It's so it's definitely something retailers go into. I mean, I've worked with people where it's like they're a brand new store. They haven't even started yet. They do have their resale license, but they, to get into the shows, it's like, name three of you have to bring like 3 invoices for brands. And it's like, okay, this is my first show. Like I haven't even opened yet. Like I don't have these invoices yet. It's very tricky. Like I don't know how they expect people that are trying to start a business, how you're supposed to without any, like, this is the first.
Totally. So I was like, okay, I feel like nobody's going to sell to me. None of the brands that I wanted to carry. And then I had reached out. I knew I wanted to sell greeting cards as well. Like I really love letterpress and I love paper and I love gold foil and I love all of that stuff. And I reached out to Kat at Kitty Meow. And this was like Kat. I think Kat and I started around the same time. Or she changed her wholesale business around the time when I was opening Pink Flamingo. And I emailed her and she's like, I'd love to be on the website. And I'm like, that's great. Now I have one. So people were like, who is on your website? I'm like, well, Kitty Meow. You don't know them?
we love Kitty Meow over here.
That's weird that you don't know her because she's super cool and popular. And at the time, I don't know that either of us had that many people following us, but she was, I believe, she was the very first brand that we carried. And from there, it was super easy to get additional brands on our website. And I think it took a little bit of time for us to curate. But we started really small. We carried brands like Oh Happy Day, and carried brands like Daydream Society, and just grew from there. But it was very like in the night. It was just an idea.
Wow.
And I was just like, I'm going to do it. And this is what it's going to be like. And we'll see what happens.
Well, I think I love when people just jump. I mean, I'm always the first one to say like, don't wait. You can't wait for the perfect opportunity. If it's something you want, like just fucking jump. And it's like, you're going to make mistakes. And it's like, that's part of the process. I mean, I think personally, like even my interns that I've had, I'd much rather have an intern that doesn't come out of a fashion school because, there's an element of hesitance on when something goes wrong or what do I do because it's all book smart versus like, I'm just going to jump, like, whatever, like, and you're going to fuck up. And that's part of the business, but you're doing it real time with real hands-on experience versus reading about it and learning about it from somebody else. How long did you have the e-com before you decided you're going to break off and open a brick and mortar?
Yeah. So essentially what happened was 2019, we started introducing balloons, like the balloon garland do-it-yourself kits on our website. And I didn't know a lot about balloons, but I started to, make the balloon garlands because we were offering them and taking photos, right? So I started watching YouTube. There wasn't a lot of information on balloons, like this new style called organic, the big balloon displays you see. Wasn't a lot of information, but I was like, okay, I'm going to try it. We'll get some photos on the website. 2020 came. And obviously people aren't having parties anymore. And at the time, the majority of the items on our website were geared towards girls going on bachelorettes and girls trips. So I had 7 million Prosecco Pong sets. I was like, what are people like? I wasn't too concerned about it because it was still like a side hustle. But I just was like, okay, we have to pivot. Like, how can we help people celebrate at home, over the next couple of weeks or what I thought was the next couple of weeks.
I thought the same. I'm like, how long could this last?
I'm like 2 weeks, 3 weeks tops, right? How can we help people celebrate at home? And I was like, okay, cool. We can start offering these balloon garlands on a larger scale. We can deliver it to people contactless, right? They can order on our website, choose their theme, and we'll deliver it. So I had went to my parents' house in Connecticut. We started offering them. It was on the news. And people were calling us being like, can you do a balloon display for my kid? It's their 5th birthday. It's a huge birthday for them. They were so excited. They want a fire truck theme. They want a luau theme. People started calling and we started posting the balloons. We were one of the first people in our area to do this organic style balloons outside of people's homes. And from that,
amazing.
It just started to roll. And that was like our main business was these balloon displays. And then shortly after that, I don't know how much longer, we started carrying more products on our website, but it was harder for people because they were like, well, I want to see in person, right? They want to touch it. They want to feel it. They want to see the exact color. Computer colors can change. We were going to get a warehouse for, I've taken up my family's entire home. So our living room from floor to ceiling, the basement, my dad is delivering balloons at like 5 o'clock in the morning before he goes to his job.
God love your parents.
They're both entrepreneurs. So I think that they have like a lot of understanding of what I was going through. I couldn't keep up with the amount of balloons. Like we were inflating through the night. If you're ever doing that, you're not charging enough. You're not charging enough. If a million people want you, you're probably not charging enough. But my sister was driving. We were doing so many displays and I was like, we need a warehouse because I've taken every single room in our house is filled to the brim with balloons. Cars are filled. U-Hauls. I
remember watching you drive just with like all balloons in your car. And I remember sitting, it was post-pandemic when I met you, but I just remember just then watching like you at this point had your brick and mortar and I'm like watching like how full, and I think it was Gay Pride and it was just like so packed. There was literally like no room. And I'm like, where are you doing all this?
Yeah, it was like that for a while because if you can remember, so we were looking for a warehouse and everybody needed a warehouse. Everybody wanted a warehouse, needed a warehouse. You couldn't find a warehouse. Warehouses were so expensive. And everybody also needed vans, like transit vans, box trucks. You couldn't find a box truck you still can't. It's really hard. So we were spending a lot of money. We became BFFs with the ladies at U-Haul, about 10 minutes from us. And I was I never thought I was going to open a brick and mortar space. I don't know. Again, I didn't work in retail, but I love shopping. And I grew up in West Hartford. I was it's a little small center. It's one of the few walking towns with a walking shopping center in Connecticut. And I was like, I don't even know. I think I was making a delivery and I saw a for rent sign and I was like, I'll give them a call. Like, let's see how much it is. And because it was COVID still, this was pre-vaccine. The vaccine they were talking about, it hadn't come out yet. Retail, it was cheaper to get a brick and mortar than it was to get a warehouse, if you can believe it. And we're in like a prime spot. And it was pretty much a risk. I was like, look, if it doesn't work out, at the end of the day, this is cheaper than a warehouse. And if it does work out, that's super cool. And now we have a store where people can come in and look at all the party supplies and we can offer gifts and gift wrapping and people can come up and pick up balloons. So it was kind of like it was really kind of an overnight thing. Like, okay, I'll do this. And, if it works, cool. And if it doesn't, we'll pivot.
I think there's so many businesses that started definitely during the pandemic, but and I say this a lot. It's like, I feel like the pandemic in some sense was kind of a gift. And like for you and your business, like how fucking kismet that you need a space and here's a retail space. And then, obviously none of us thought COVID was going to be as long as it was. And did you think about like, okay, well, COVID's going to be done in a couple weeks and then we'll do this? Like, or was it right now it's just for the space?
No. So this was pre-vaccine. So I want to say this is spring of 2021. So a lot of time has gone by at this point. It's the spring. I think the vaccine maybe was coming out in the early summer. I just kind of thought, I don't want to say I thought it was that hard to open a real retail space, but I looked, there's not a lot of information on people who want to open a small business, like are in the retail space on the internet. I've done a lot of internet searching. Not a lot of info out there. I didn't realize we actually did a full demo of the space that we're in now, which is insane. Like, look, if I knew that what I know now. I don't know that I would have done it, to be quite frank.
What was the space before?
It was a medical spa, but it had a front center and then a long hallway and then a bunch of offices, like medical rooms in the back. And now we're in like a wide open space with a small back room.
So you tore everything out and then...
Yeah, we took out all the ceilings. We now have like 20-foot high ceilings. Wow. All the walls were wallpapered with damask, like wallpaper with rhinestones on it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we put in like, you can't really see it, but above the balloon bar we put in like a soffitted ceiling. We did built-ins. I really was like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this.
And so you're designing a store and you've never had a retail store and you've worked in this weird store that doesn't sell stuff. Like, so how did you go about designing the space? I mean, because obviously, like I love the rainbow colored, the balloons in the jars behind you, like how you knew what you were selling. So how did you approach designing a store when you never have, just based on what you own?
Sure. I guess I've been into a lot of stores. I knew that's not my wheelhouse. Designing things, I know what I like. We got a little friend. So cute.
Hilda.
I know what I like and I know what I don't. And our brand was pretty strong at this point. Like we are known for doing rainbow installations. We're always in jumpsuits. Like we're known for like saying certain things and always wearing the color pink, and like we're known for certain things at this point where we're going out and people are seeing us. And one of the things that we say a lot is we do a peace sign. We say, stay rad. And like people are saying that. So I'm like, okay, there's certain things we say and certain things that are part of our brand. But I don't know how to design a space and I'm not going to pretend like I know how to do. So hire someone that knows. And luckily, one of my balloon friends that I had made, her best friend is a retail store designer. And she worked for this big design firm. And I was like, okay, like, does she have the time? And I think she was like in between projects or something. And she did have the time. And she's designed stores like Dylan's Candy Bar in New York City, which I worked there. I loved it. That store was just so fun. It was like a retail store in the bottom, and then they had the bar up top, and they had all these fun drinks. And she designed some other really amazing and beautiful stores. And it was kind of just like, it was I got lucky. I got really, really lucky because I would have never met her if I didn't, have my friend Megan who introduced me to her. And she designed this entire store very quickly. Almost, it felt very overnight. It was just like, okay, like I met with her. It was like, this is like our vibe. This is what we really like. This is who we are. Can you like put that into store format? And she came back with a store and I was like, this is... Now, I'm a pretty critical person. She came back with a story. I was like, this is amazing. This is like every single thought I've had in my head, you've somehow drawn.
That's what we do as retail consultants. Like you listen to the customer and you obviously have your vision, and then merchandisers and designers just kind of take it to the next level. That's what I love about what we all do. And it's even better when you hear stories like this, like you nailed it on the first time. I have to go back because there's a couple things I'm like right now, like I need to address is you didn't come from the balloon world. Like how the fuck did you learn how to do some of these? I mean, like when I say intricate, like you've done some I forget one. It was it a mermaid or was it castle or something? But I mean, like this whole thing is
castle. Yeah.
Like how did you learn how to do all this? Obviously, you're learning it as you go, but like, are you learning it on YouTube? Like, it's insane.
There are no videos on YouTube. So there's this one woman on YouTube. Her name is Sandy Missouri. I live and die by her. I love her. I think she's a balloon goddess. I don't think she's in the industry. I've never met her. She's not, she still has her YouTube videos, but she's not still doing balloons. But she's taught some basic techniques that I was like, okay, I can make a column. Like I can make a arch. Like this is how you do some of the things. And then I was just like trying stuff out, watching Instagram reels, and then asking other balloon artists who had been in the industry a little bit longer, like some really important questions. People in the balloon industry are some of the friendliest people you'll meet.
I was just gonna say that is so rare for, I mean, every coach says, reach out and ask people questions. In the retail space, I hate to say it, it is not like people are like, oh yeah, I'll give you my secrets. Like, that's why this podcast, like everyone's like, I'm learning so much, but I'll get ghosted because somebody doesn't want to, quote, give their secrets away. So the fact that you called balloon artists and they were nice enough to give you the information and, you know, I don't know if it's mentor, but to give you the information and like, I mean, like that's so rare.
Yeah, it was hard. I can say that I don't remember having sometimes people won't respond and that's totally fine. Like they don't want to tell you. I remember taking a class that was like pretty affordable. There was one person that was offering classes. I think they were like $15 a class. So I'm like, okay, like $15, like what do I have to lose? Like spend more on coffee in a day. And I showed up to the class. And this is actually how I met my friend Megan, who introduced me to the girl who designed our store, Natalie. But I showed up to the class. It was like 10 of us and the instructor never showed up. Or like showed up, Wi-Fi wasn't working, and then like ditched us.
Wow.
And everyone was kind of like upset. And I'm like thinking like, okay, it's $15. They said they're going to reschedule. Like at the end of the day, it's not that expensive. It's not a big deal. And I remember a lot of people asking different questions about like how to attach balloon garlands to brick, which was a big thing at the time. We're in an area that has a lot of homes with brick, and like sticky stuff just doesn't stick to brick. And that's basically why I was in the class. That's the number one thing I wanted to know. And someone told me how. And people were asking me questions. We were exchanging information and ideas. And I was like, well, let's all keep in touch. Like, what's the easiest way? And they were like, text. And I was like, I'm not a big texter. So I was like, I don't really want to be in a group chat with like a bunch of these people and people asking questions all the time. So I was like, I'll create a Facebook group. I never really created one. I mean, I created them in college for different activities in my sorority, but I was like, okay, well, I'll put you all in a Facebook group. For some reason, we got caught in the Facebook algorithm, and some friends invited some other friends. And the Facebook group is called Learning with Balloons. So people could write in, ask their questions, and people would answer. The group has now has over 20,000 members.
Oh, it's amazing.
So it just like steamrolled overnight, like people asking questions, people posting things. What color do you think this is? How can I install this here? Do you know what technique this is? So that was huge. And then I started meeting more balloon friends and started going to conventions and different builds.
Convention?
What?
There's balloon conventions?
Yeah, it's the most fun thing you'll ever go to. And yeah, different builds where you go and you learn techniques and you just build a bunch of stuff and classes. And, now we're getting a little bit, I don't want to say post-pandemic, because I still remember being fully masked at all these things. But, at this time, more activities are coming up. And so you're meeting more people and you're learning certain techniques. And there's not a ton of, there's a ton of things you can do with balloons, but there are like some core techniques that if you know, you can build anything. And so once I knew how to do that, I was like, okay, we're going to do like cool stuff like the castle, or for Halloween, we did a giant Frankenstein outside our shop. So yeah, a lot of it's been trial and error, but asking questions, knowing how to ask questions and asking the right, like smart questions, I think other balloon artists are really appreciative of, not just like, oh, what color is this? Or, oh, like, how do you tie this balloon? Like if there are other videos about it, like, don't, go find those and do your research. But if there's nothing on it, like definitely ask people. People are so willing to help in the balloon industry.
That. And then now the next question I have, which I was like reeling over when you were talking about the demos, how did the balloon sales you had done to this point out of your parents' house, like did this pay for the demo and the designer and the materials?
Yes, they did. So I had done enough balloon sales to prove that like balloons were a actual business. Like they were able to operate on their own. I hadn't done, to be quite frank, have not done enough in paper goods online. And I'm very real about that with people. Like, we had not sold enough greeting cards to justify opening a store. And that shouldn't really shock anybody. That just really shouldn't shock anybody. So the balloon sales were what was driving the store. It still today is what drives our store, and how we operate. It was funny. It was because, both of my parents, like I mentioned, own their own businesses. And when I wanted to do, open the store, and I told my parents, and they were like, that's cool. Like, you can go to like all these different places and you can get money from the state, or you can get loans that have like really small interest rates. And they were telling me all of these things. They were like, okay, you just do a business proposal and then you go and you sell your business. And the amount of times I got laughed right out of a room because I am a balloon artist who sells balloons was, more times than I can count. If I had $1.
Going to banks, were you going like, who are you? Because you're doing a business plan. Who are you pitching them to before you went down the other route?
Yeah, so a couple of them were banks. A couple of them were like small business groups in Connecticut. I won't name them. I won't name drop them, but they're run by the state. And they decide who they give money to. So, most people who have businesses that people are familiar with would typically get a grant. So if you have a loan, either one, right? So if you have let's say you're a hairdresser and you want to open a salon, right? That's a business that they understand. So they'll be like, okay, no problem. You have a business plan. Like, okay, you went to hairdressing school. This makes sense. Even if you don't have a proven business, right? They will loan you the money because that makes sense to them. We had all of the numbers, right? And what we had made, and the numbers made sense. And they were like, I don't know if that'll work. Like, I don't know. And it's like, they didn't understand that there can be independently owned party stores that aren't like a party city, right? Or that aren't like, they just didn't understand. And I don't know why they didn't understand, but there was a lot of laughter not coming from my end.
Oh my God. I can't even imagine you walking out of those meetings. I mean, anybody who's putting together any business, like, you're so proud, and there is ego wrapped up in it because it's something you created. And it's like, having somebody like laugh at it would be like, I got to give it to you for like staying with it and not giving up. And so tell everyone how you did finally end up getting different grants and funds.
Yeah. So I found an organization called I Fund Women. They fund women-owned businesses, and they offer tons of different grants on a monthly basis. And they also offer the opportunity for you to fundraise on their platform. So it's a little bit different from Kickstarter. So I believe how Kickstarter works is you have a product, right? You set a goal. There are different achievements at each level, and you have to reach your overall goal to get all of the money and for all the product to be like sent out, right? And if you don't reach the goal, you're back at zero and everything's kind of like refunded. That's my understanding of Kickstarter and other programs like that. I Fund Women is a little bit different because it's almost like you're fundraising for like, almost similar to like a 5K, right? So any dollar that someone gives you is a dollar that you receive. I don't know. It's like the following day or 2 days later. It's very quick. It's deposited into your account, and you're still giving different items at each milestone. So let's say someone wants to support you. Also, a huge point about I Fund Women that separates them is you're not giving away equity. So you're not giving away any part of the business that you own. It's people in your local community, your friends that are supporting you. So let's say, I think one of the things we did was if you donate like $100 to our campaign, you get like a sweatshirt. If you donate $500, we'll do like a small balloon install, like just different things at every milestone. And we've raised a lot of money very quickly. That was going to go right to the store, as well as getting a van at the time, which was impossible. It's so impossible to find. We finally ended up with a van, I think a year later, but, the store and a van. And, we applied for a grant through I Fund Women. One came up and it was through American Express, and it was specifically for Black women-owned businesses in the U.S. And we won the grant, and it was $25,000. And I was like, okay, this is amazing. This is killer. This is so cool. Plus, we had gotten the money from, the money that we had already raised. And then we won another grant through them where it was like, it was like another grant that they were giving away. We won that one. And then I won a pitch competition. And then, so I'm like really excited at this point. And then the other money, like the difference that we needed that we didn't have, I put it on a credit card. I was like, all right, I'll bet on myself. Nobody wants to bet on me. I don't need a loan. I'll put it on a 0% interest credit card. Don't do this. It's a bad idea. And I'll pay it off within 12 months. I just want to caution people about doing it because it is very risky. I love it. Paid off. It was fine. No fees, no late fees, no interest. I paid it off in the time that I needed to. I also had a lot of help, which I'm very transparent about. My uncle is an electrician, so he did all of the electrical work here. I have another uncle who's an architectural engineer, so he wrote the plans and worked with our designer, Natalie, to write the plans. So there were people that definitely helped us and giving their time. My Uncle Rohan helped us
out. I mean, that's why this story is like so incredible to me, because that's truly what small business is about. Like, you have a dream, it blew up to this crazy thing, which I love. It's like almost like that perfect storm timing of how getting a space and, I mean, outside of the van, but how all of this kind of fell into place. I mean, but it all contributes from you and the time that you put in to learning it and to asking and to going and finding these grants. How long was it until you started? Because doesn't your sister help you?
She does. Yeah. She did a lot back then too. So we were doing it, every day. She does typically allow me, who's my sister, only works on very large installs at this point. Things that are very over the top, and like multi-hour installs, or big days for us. So she's really involved in Pride. Pride is typically June's
amazing.
It's our favorite season because we love rainbow. We don't get to do as many rainbow installs throughout the year as we used to, just because of the trends right now. The trends are like nudes and pastel blues and pastel pinks and, like whites and laces. And rainbow is definitely everyone on this team's favorite thing to do. And so Pride is a huge month for us. It's aligns also with graduation season, which is the largest month for balloon artists, usually around the country, aside from New Year's Eve. So June's a really big month. So she works on large installs like that, or days where, the day that we built the huge Frankenstein outside of our shop for Halloween and things like that. So she doesn't work on the retail side of things, mostly just deliveries at this point.
How many, and this is, now I'm like going down the rabbit hole of balloons. How long does it take to do like that Frankenstein?
The Frankenstein, I want to say, took a couple hours. I want to say it took only maybe 1 to 2 hours with 4 people. It was pretty quick. It took us maybe 3 hours to put up. It was a battle to get it up. Our building is stone. It is very hard to attach things to our building. And it was the windiest day that we've ever had, ever. And balloons and wind do not get along. So we had 4 or 5 people trying to hook it to our building. And even then it was so windy. We only had it up for the day, which is a bummer. Usually we try and keep things up overnight. Unless winds are super strong, we don't want, the balloons to fly away. We make sure everything is secured. So unfortunately we took it down that afternoon and popped it, which was really sad. But it took longer to put up than it did to actually inflate.
What is the longest install you've done and what was it?
I worked on a build in Florida a couple years ago to fundraise for kids. And I think it was 4 days. and over 500,000 balloons, or over 500,000 balloons.
Like what did you guys create?
There is a video on Instagram, I believe. It was like a whole underwater world.
Wow.
It was I specifically worked on a team that worked on an underwater world. There was a candy land. There was a huge convention center. It was so many people worked on it. I think there was maybe 100 of us or 120 of us over 4 days. And those are really fun because you get to meet people who twist, for example, like who make, twisted creations, and can do like lots of cool stuff that, I am not a twister. I don't specialize in that. I can make you a twisted sword. Or I can...
It's like the long balloons.
Yeah, the long ones. So they use lots of long ones in different sizes and different colors, and they make people and mermaids. And I mean, you just tell them anything, and their mind is so amazing, and their imagination is so special. Because I remember we wanted to make a shell phone, like a cell phone, but like a shell phone. And a friend just like twisted it in like 5 seconds, and it was like the cutest thing. And I'm so amazed and impressed by balloon artists because, I mean, some of these guys, their imagination is just like something things you've never thought of get created. And it's really amazing to watch.
I know all those people that have seen the balloon people in some park or some, Disneyland or whatever. I know everyone is thinking about like how, like, cause I remember when I was a kid, like watching them and they blow it up and they twist it into this thing and it's like, ta-da. It's like, but
cool.
You see them and sometimes it's kind of like a mime. Sometimes it's like, okay, no, I'm good. No, thank you so much.
It is. It's one of those things, depending on the twister you find. Some of them are also like comedians, so they'll like tell jokes. It's super interesting how they get started because a lot of them are face painters too. That's super popular to be a twister and a face painter. The world of balloons is so large, and I honestly think, looking back on it, when I was going in to pitch those companies, even though we had visuals and pictures, or pitch those banks rather, even though we had visuals and pictures and described exactly what we did, I honestly think that some people probably thought I was like a twister, like one of those corner street twisters that was like, okay, like, even though we told them our average sales and our average order value, and I still think that that's kind of what they had in mind.
The financial world, I think, much like old school retail, they can't picture businesses that are outside of their scope as a quote viable business. And it's the old school retail of like what retail's supposed to look like. And I've said this before, it's like the pandemic has changed a lot of what business looks like. And these old, much like a lot of the podcasts about retailers, as Matt, who's one of our sponsors, said, it's like old white guys. It's like the old mentality of what quote retail space is supposed to look like. And then somebody like you comes along with something that is completely out of the box. The old mentality can't grasp that. So thank God for the people that believe in that and can see past what retail's supposed to look like, because your generation is the generation that's changing the scope of what retail looks like. And that's, I think, what I love so much. And I say it about the podcast about fashion as well. Like I go to the shows for Magic, for the apparel show, and like girls your age, women your age, like are like live with the whole crew. They're filming live, they're selling live from a wholesale show. And it's like my generation, like it's a totally new way of doing it. And I love watching it, but there's like, I don't know many of us that would do it ourselves to have the balls to do it. And it's like, that's what I love about watching your business evolve and other people's businesses evolve that are like so out of the scope of what we've done and what we've deemed as quote retail. It's so exciting, but that's why I'm guessing, the banks look at it because it's old white guys. Sorry.
Exactly. That is the main issue. It's funny because you talk about it, and I've even had conversations about certain grants that we didn't receive, or certain grants that I look at the requirements and I'm like, you would literally need a team of 20 people to be able to fill this out. Like, who's this grant actually for, right? Are you writing smart grants? Like, are you writing grants that are attainable, or are you like purposely trying to write grants that are unachievable? Because if you need an accountant, a bookkeeper, an assistant, like 7 team members, like 4 references, and like your blood, like a blood sample, who is this grant actually for? And I've been speaking out about that a lot lately because there are so many grants that are so amazing and it helps so many people. But there are a lot of grants that I read and I'm like, this isn't worth my time to fill out. And we have a big team at this point and a lot of help. But I'm like, this isn't worth my time, right? If it's going to take us, a couple weeks to put this together, it's kind of like the effort versus the reward. Like, who is this even a real grant? Are you actually going to give the money? And then some of the uses, like I've seen grants and it's like, can't be used on payroll, can't be used on product, can't be used on rent, can't be used on marketing, can't be used on advertising. It's like, okay, can you actually explain to me what it can be used on? Because that might be easier because there's nothing left.
Yeah. I think what a lot of people are thinking right now, and a lot of light bulbs I'm hoping are going off, is like, you could have your established business and you could be in business, brand new, or you could be established and you can still apply for these grants. Like you can
100%.
And I think that a lot of people don't realize that. And I think that for me, that was the light bulb. And I started to go down the I Fund Women and start to do it. And I'll admit, like, I'm impatient. Like anyone who knows me knows I'm impatient. And I'm like, it is a lot of steps, but the fact that you can go back to this and continue to apply for grants over and over again, for those who need the money or want to expand, the money is there. Maybe a challenge, it may be, but I love that I Fund Women because it sounds like that's the best place for people to start.
It's a great place for people to start. They notify people about other grants that are available. I would say that a great place to start is to fill out one grant and save all of your answers. A lot of the questions are going to be the same, the exact same. It's almost like they went into a bank and were like, check, check, check. Just use these questions. So a lot of your answers can be copied and pasted, and that's an easy way to fill out grants very quickly. Another company I believe is called Hello Alice. I will send you a sheet after that people can access for a list of grants or places to go. You can definitely look to your local small business council or small business network. Most towns have it, or your economic development in your town or city. They'll have grant opportunities typically, but you can get on these lists where they kind of send you an email. If you are in a protected group, so if you're a woman, if you are a minority, person of color, part of the LGBTQ community, there are a lot of grants out there, more so than they're going to be for a white man. And obviously we know because white men have gotten everything. So it's about time to even the playing field. So there are a lot of amazing grants and opportunities. I Fund Women, again, is a great place to start, but I will share a sheet so everyone can kind of look over some ideas or some starting points on where they can get free money, because I'm a huge advocate in, if you can pass on the loan and really find ways to get free money, because it is out there, it is available, and there are definitely people that want to give the money to you and support your small business.
I love this conversation so much. So tell me about, because you have started to expand into gift now much more. I mean, your holidays were so cute. Are you buying from Glitterville? Is that the little black snowman or black Santa? Was that Glitterville?
Oh, it was, Raz.
Okay, so it's funny. Because a lot of people in the gift industry, a lot of, like, there's a big China gift show, and a lot of the vendors all go to the gift show. So you see a lot of the same thing. So it looks like the one but there's like 4 versions of it, but it's so cute. But watching you build your holiday gifts was so exciting. So talk a little bit about when you started to introducing that and where you're at with it.
Yeah, so we've always had like smaller gifts since the day we open for kids' parties, right? If you want to come in, we used to be next to, maybe 10 stores down from a toy store. So we didn't want to step on anyone's toes or overlap, but we figured, okay, if you're coming in to get balloons and you need to pick up a gift for your child's party, right? We had small puzzles and toys and things like that we could quickly wrap and send you on your way. We started expanding, I would say we, not this past Christmas, but the holiday before, into gift. We do focus on gift more during, the holiday season. We are actually in a town that's mostly Jewish, so we have a large focus on Hanukkah as well. This last January was the first large show we went to. So I've been to New York now, but I never went to Dallas or Vegas, and we went to Atlanta last January.
What was as somebody that hasn't done the show before, what was your experience? Because I think every single buyer because Atlanta is one of the biggest, it's one of my favorite shows because there's 3 campuses, and it's like when I say campus, our building. So each building is, I think the tallest one's 23 floors or something like that. And like, there are floors dedicated to just Christmas, and then it's gift. And like you walk through these showrooms, and a lot of them have these unreal displays. So I know buyers get there like, oh my God, I want this. I want this. I want like, how was your first experience? Were you overwhelmed?
So Julie on my team does a lot of the buying. We went together. We were like, oh God, I think she was more scared about me being alone. Because I get all of these ideas and then I just do them, right? And if they work, they work. And if they don't, we pivot. I always say if your business isn't working, pivot. Like, what can you do to change it? But we got to Atlanta and I was like, oh, I want to carry everything. And our shop is 1,200 square feet. And I want to say like 600 of it has like sellable retail. We have 600 square feet of retail space. And we don't have a ton of space. So we have to be very careful about the brands we bring in, and we have to almost guarantee that it's going to sell and sell very quickly. We're not a high traffic store either. We do sell online still, but we're not a super high traffic store. We're intentional for the people that have never been here before, right? They come, they know we do balloons. They come here and they're like, oh, there's so many other things, right? And then we do have our group of people that support our store on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, or bi-monthly rather basis. So we have to be really intentional, but our focus when we went there was bringing in the majority of our stores, small women-owned businesses, and items made in the US. So that's really our focus. So if you are not one of those two, there's a good chance we are not bringing you into our store unless you knock our socks off. So that kind of cuts down a lot. And then we really try and focus on things that make sense in our store, right? There is a brand, and I can't think of the name, but it was one of the first brands we saw, and they have like these sleepover bags. Like they have like sleepover bags, and they're like shiny and pink, and they say sleepover. It's like almost like a kid's version of Stony Clover. Super cute. But we don't have the space for that. They're huge. And we don't necessarily have carry that. We just don't have the space. So it's a no. So things that kind of fit in with our shelves now, all of our shelves are categorized by color. They're in rainbow order. So being intentional on what things pair well together, and then what things pair well together that would fit within the color.
Love that.
So there's a lot of thought that goes.
When in doubt, color it out. I always say that. And it's like, that's the beauty of coloring out something. But the cohesiveness that lends to a retail space when it's colored out is unreal.
Yeah, there are some people that do it really well. Bonjour Fett, we love her. She, owns multiple party stores. Shop Presley Page, my friend Maggie in Fayetteville. She has an amazing store that she decks out she does pink mist. So she does a lot of stuff that's focused on pink during Christmas. She has a beautiful store throughout the year, but her visual merchandising and her videos we love to watch. So we love getting ideas from others, but we definitely want to keep our store unique to us and really fun while really making sure that we're giving space to people in our shop that wouldn't have space elsewhere. So we're not carrying anything. We try our best not to carry anything that's sold in Target or on Amazon. We try and, curate our shelves that things are uniquely here. So you're not like, oh, I saw that for $4 less at the Target. That's definitely not the case. We want people to come in and be like, wow, I've never seen anything like this before. So Atlanta was amazing for us because we got to bring on brands like I had never heard of Raz. Obviously, people are probably shocked, like, whoa, wow. But I never worked in retail. And we carried a lot of their items that were amazing and perfect for our holiday that people were really excited about. So we got to find some other brands that we wouldn't have necessarily found on the internet.
There's a lot there. Getting U.S. made goods is a challenge. I'm not going to lie, because there is a lot, but a lot of Glitterville and some of the amazing lines, a lot of it, the production's done in China. But the other side of the coin is, and retailers hear this all the time, and what consumers don't realize is yes, you want U.S. goods, but then the consumer complains about how expensive it is. And it's because it's U.S. made. And
that's totally something we deal with. We are in Connecticut. So it is a bit of a different market than maybe you would see elsewhere. But we remind people, there are times where people check out and they're like, wow, I did not think I spent this much, right? They get, some coloring books and a crown and some balloons. And I'm like, well, if it makes you feel any better, and almost 9 times out of 10, the majority of their stuff is made by a small women-owned business or supports a women-owned business. And we remind them that. And then they kind of are just like, oh, well, that's great. That's fine. And when you really look down to quality of items and quality of goods and uniqueness, that is really what you're paying for. And we've done comparisons, even with balloons. Our balloons are going to be more expensive than you have that you find at a Party City, but ours are made from small women-owned businesses. Their latex is made in the USA. It's biodegradable. We use 100% helium. We treat our balloons. So your Party City balloons that lasted for 4 hours, our balloons are going to be in your house haunting you for weeks. For weeks. And people always say that. They're like, well, I didn't know I was paying extra, but now I know and I'll never come anywhere else. It's the same with the gift side of things. But that's why we try and bring in unique items, right? We can't just bring in stuff that's in Target and upcharge people 25% because we're a small business. That to me is insane. And I don't think I could justify that. So, Atlanta was great. We also got to see some people we love. I got to see Festive Gal. We sell a ton of crowns. She's amazing.
Because Kevlin, we've had her on the podcast as well.
Yeah, I heard it. Yeah.
Her product is so amazing.
It is amazing. Yes, we have a crown wall in our shop. And we'd have custom crowns for people that are graduating locally. So, all the private schools and the public high schools, they can come in and get a crown, or for birthdays and things like that. That isn't something yes, you can buy that from Festive Gal, but that's not something you're going to find at a Target, right? You're not going to find that at a Party City. You're not going to find that anywhere. And so brands like that are super important to us. Same thing with Jollity, who now owns Daydream Society. It's a lot of illustrative artists they've hired to draw and paint their paper goods. You're not going to see paper goods like that at a Target. You're not going to see the quality. And I think people appreciate and love that. And that's why they shop with us.
I love everything about this story. I loved listening to you when we spoke and you sat and told us about how you built your brand. But I honestly I love this conversation so much because I think that how incredibly smart you are and how you created this business and utilizing tools that are there and then paying it back by hiring or by, buying women-owned business products in the U.S. Everything you're doing, I absolutely love.
Thanks so much.
Really incredible to watch from afar, but it's equally as incredible because you built it yourself. With help from others, but you built it yourself.
Yeah, this has been an insane team effort. I didn't even mention like my mother, a lot of the stuff we have is handmade. So like we have a tassel wall over here, and I'm sure you've seen like the tassels that we put on balloons. Like my mom hand makes all of these. Like we sell party hats and my mom hand makes those. Like these paper flowers, my mom hand makes these. Like wands, like things like that. So a lot of our stuff is we really try and make it really unique to us and to our brand. And we really try and stay true to that because it would be really easy for me to go and buy a huge truck of stuff from China and bring it in and mark it up. That would be way easier than what we're doing now, but that would not be true to me or our brand or fair to, our customers who support us. Like I said, we have a lot of people that, support this shop on a weekly basis. And I've got to give it to our team. We've got some of the friendliest people in town that work here. So we're lucky to also be able to offer like amazing service, which I think helps.
An environment. I mean, it's a fun environment. Like it's like,
how can you be sad here?
It's like a party every day. It's like kidding me out. Like, how could you not have fun in that environment? And it's an environment that you created. I'm going to ask you two last questions. If you've heard the podcast, you know what's coming. Where do you get inspiration?
I get inspiration from my friends around me. I have a lot of balloon friends as well as retail friends who are incredibly talented and are, posting amazing things online that spark new ideas. I also get a lot of inspiration from like cookie and cake makers. So people who are, designing the hand painted cookies and, I really am into these vintage cakes right now. Like the colors that they mix are sometimes so unexpected that I'm like, oh, that would be amazing. Like those same colors in a balloon garland and things like that. And also our clients are so inspiring. We have so many clients that come in that we've done their kids' birthdays year after year. And some of the themes are really tricky and really hard. And like we had a Greek mythology theme one year. And, I don't make a lot of shaped balloons for these.
What do you make for that?
We did this hoop with different colors, and then we actually printed and cut out certain Greek mythology things. And I'm forgetting the names of all them now because they're difficult, but I had to do research on it. So our clients definitely keep us on our toes. And most recently we did a football themed mitzvah. So we had an arch, and the arch was the football helmet. And, the centerpieces were the field goals, and we had balloons on a fishing line. So you couldn't see them. It looked like the balloons were flying through the air. So our clients really keep us on our toes. So I'm inspired, by a lot of different things.
Love that. And, what is the best piece of advice you could give a new entrepreneur?
The best piece of advice is enjoy the journey. I think a lot of people get into business or think about owning your own business, and they're like, I'll just do what I want and go on vacation whenever I want. And, kind of you think of the plus sides, right? You're always thinking of I'm just going to be a millionaire and it's going to be great and it's all going to work out. And maybe people listen to this and they're like, I've never thought that in my life. And maybe it's just me. But enjoy the journey. That is why I do this. That's why I'm still doing this. I've learned so much about myself, how I work with others, how to manage people. It's crazy, and enjoy it. And I think another piece of advice I'll give is for those people that have maybe been in business far longer than maybe even I have, is pivot. If it's not working, don't keep doing it. Try something new and pivot. And that's really what has accelerated our brand and kept us doing different things and kept us on our toes. But I see so many people want to really go down with this ship. And
it's again, I talk about the new generation of retailers and the old generation of retailers. And when the pandemic happened, those who stuck by, it's not broken, why fix it? This is the way we've always done it. Those stores are quickly going away because there hasn't been that idea of pivoting. And I hate that word because we used it so much during the pandemic, but it does transcend the pandemic and it does apply to business now. It's like, if you're right, if it's not working, why? And it's a lot of the older generation of retail doesn't think that way of like, we can change. It's change is very scary to people. And it's another reason why I said, like, I love watching the new generation of retailers, because you are open-minded about like pivoting. It's not working. Let's change it. Okay, let's do something different. And it's a very hard thing for people to grasp because change is scary.
Change is totally scary. I won't disagree with you there, but yeah, pivoting is, if it's not, I mean, this is the way we've always done it. Retail, other business, it will kill business and kill culture and kill ideas so quickly. And it's, that sentence to me is so dangerous. When I hear people say it, I cringe. I actually run the other way. I'm like, how can I get as far away from you as possible? Because I don't want to catch what you have. So that's my advice. Take it or leave it. Yeah.
It's amazing advice. Thank you so much for your time. I'm so excited for this. This is like a total last minute add-on. And I'm so excited because like I said, I've been watching you for now 2 years and watching your business expand. And it's so exciting to watch. And like, I know everyone is going to take so much out of this. Like, it's so, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.